Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. This podcast features powerful hypnosis, so do not listen while driving or operating machinery. This recording is not suitable for those with epilepsy or severe mental health issues. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and in today's episode of The Hypnotist, I'm going to do another random hypnosis session based on some of those key ingredients of a random destination, 2 random emotions, 3 nouns, and now I've started to include the Mike Mandel hypnotic language cards in there. So each time I do a particular phrase from this pack, I'm going to throw away that card so that there's additional variety of these kind of hypnotic phrases and language in each of these random sessions that I'm doing. So for those watching on YouTube, I'm now going to share my screen. And we're going to go to the destination first of all. And the destination is a place called Barstow in the United States. So it looks like it's in the west of America. Here we go. Barstow is a city in the southern desert of the state of California. The city's location is on the position on the old Route 66, make it a frequent pit stop for travelers passing through on their way to more exotic destinations. So it seems like this isn't perhaps the most exciting place in and of itself, but a lot of people may pass through this particular thing. There is a Western American Railroad Museum, and what it's most famous for is a family destination called the Calico Ghost Town. So the Calico Ghost Town looks like an old Western movie set. So it looks like there was a town here. The town has been, evacuated and nobody lives there anymore. But it kind of has echoes of kind of like the old Wild West. So that's probably what we're going to use as part of this hypnosis session. The random emotions. This is interesting. Pity and shame. So pity and shame, for a lot of people, tend to be seen very much as unresourceful states. But, I would say hypnotically, we can either tap into these emotions and look at how we can evolve them into something else, or seek to learn a lesson. And there's always a lesson. There's always a sign or some kind of useful application of any emotional resource, including pity and shame. I'm not sure how we're going to use that yet, but we certainly will in this hypnosis session. And then the 3 random nouns, interesting. We have patience, mastermind, and ignorance. So actually, if you look at this from a resource point of view, we've got pity and shame, which, are deemed to be, let's say, less resourceful states. Ignorance, you could say, is probably not that much of a useful state. Patience, however, is very useful. And a mastermind, there are various kind of meanings related to this. A mastermind could be someone that's developed such expertise on a particular topic that they themselves are a mastermind. Or within personal development, a mastermind is kind of a group of people all interested in a particular niche to create that kind of hive mind expertise within a particular topic. So all very useful ingredients, I think, based in this Wild West kind of location that we're going to build it in. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen because we need to identify the Mike Mandel hypnotic language card that we're going to use also as part of this session. So we've got various kind of random variables, and this is the final random variable. So I'm going to cut the cards here. On YouTube, you can see me doing this. And this is the 5 of spades, and it simply says, you may. And the description here on the card is, this is a very clever use of hypnotic language. When we tell the subject he may do something, he doesn't have to do anything. There's no pressure, which often leads to him doing it. Some variation, you could say, of the law of reverse effect. And the example is, and as you consider the use of language to create trance, you may find a really simple and elegant solution. So it's how I'm interpreting this. You may sows the seed of possibility. It suggests it as an option, not an obligation, and therefore reduces resistance to that particular suggestion. So throughout this hypnotic episode, you will often hear the phrase "you may" alongside some of these other random ingredients. If you are listening to this from the point of view of experiencing the hypnosis, ideally to get the most out of this, find a quiet place where you won't be disturbed, relax, and enjoy the session. Take a deep breath in, and as you breathe in a feeling of calm and relaxation, and as you exhale, allow feelings of tension, stress, or any other worries to just leave your body. As you breathe in and breathe out, if it's safe to do so, you may find your eyelids just become heavier and heavier and have a desire to close. And in closing, you may notice that you experience a richer, more valuable hypnotic experience than if you choose to keep those eyelids fully open. That's right. Deeper and deeper, relaxed. Continue to breathe in and breathe out, and you may notice that in each and every outward breath, perhaps by a tiny percentage, maybe less than 1%, you're allowing tension to leave your body, taking you deeper and deeper, relaxed. That's right. And as you relax, you can allow your mind to wander. It can wander, and as it wanders, you may wonder what it's like to travel. Sometimes traveling is the ideal way of thinking about moving from one place in your life to a new place in your life. And think about when you travel, you keep those things you want to keep. You pack your bags and keep those, but the destination changes. The context, the scenery changes. You are still you, but you are you in a different place. And one of the most famous routes that people tend to travel is the old Route 66. And I want you to imagine that you're driving an old car, perhaps a convertible, driving down the Californian stretch of Route 66. And maybe you've been to amazing cities and seen amazing things, but I want you to imagine that somewhere on this route, there in the desert, seeing perhaps the odd cactus every now and then and strange looking mountain and rock formations, there on your travels, there's a small town, or perhaps a city known as Barstow. And you can tell that this is a transient place, a pit stop, if you will, for travellers passing through. But somewhere nearby, you've heard of an old ghost town. And they call this ghost town Calico. And you've seen enough old Western movies with cowboys and Indians, gunfights and saloons, to know what an old Western town looks like. And imagine travelling from the city of Barstow to that ghost town called Calico. And when you arrive, it does indeed look like a movie set. An old movie set where they perhaps filmed those old westerns. Imagine walking down that street and you're seeing those old-fashioned buildings, perhaps made of wood. But this is a ghost town and no one's there. And there it is in the middle of the town. The old saloon. Imagine walking through those swing wooden doors of that saloon. Perhaps there's a dusty bar, dusty tables. This is the desert after all, there's dust everywhere. But I want you to get a sense of what this place used to be. What you're seeing is just an echo of this town when it was vibrant, bustling with drama and excitement. I want you to get a sense of a little bit of pity that you have for this town. This town has long since lost its peak and pinnacle of its life cycle. You can't help but feel it's a bit of a shame that at some point in time, the residents of this town decided to leave. There was a time when people would choose to live here, and yet now nobody lives here. And maybe it was the old industries that died out. Maybe it was the lack of infrastructure, or maybe a nearby city called Barstow was just more modern, with proper roads. And the people that used to live in this old town of Calico just one by one decided to go to that bigger nearby city. I want you to get a sense that there are things in your life that are like this town of Calico. You may remember, perhaps, skills within your life that you used to be so good at and now are a bit rusty, long forgotten. You may have had dreams that you really nurtured and invested, gave a lot of time and attention to, and now those dreams are a bit of a ghost town. And I wonder, as you look around this town of Calico, what would it take to bring this town back to its former glory? Yeah, it might need some effort, some repairs, but it's still the same town. Maybe it would just need people to see its potential, someone to believe in this town again. And as you think about that, I wonder what would have to happen for you to resurrect some of those things in your life that have been long since forgotten. I want you to imagine that different parts of your subconscious mind are forming a committee, a mastermind if you will, to filter through the past of your life and figure out what would be the one thing to restore to its former glory. Maybe it's a talent that you have that you've just left by the wayside. Maybe Maybe it's an idea, a big goal, a dream that once you were convinced could be success, and you've just left it. But what if you hadn't left it? What if you were now demonstrating a feeling of patience? Because interestingly, sometimes when you revisit old things, the things that stopped you from making progress before have long since changed. Maybe this new version of you that reapproaches the old ghost towns of your life mean that what wasn't possible before now is possible. I want you to get a sense that maybe back at the time when you originally pursued these things, you had ignorance of things that you now know differently about. You are bringing a new version of you, new perspective, new skills, new experiences, new wisdom to exactly the same thing that perhaps created some kind of inertia before, whereas now you could take that same event and build momentum. Everything is possible if you give it enough time, if you have enough patience, if you still have the will. Meanwhile, that mastermind of all those different parts of your subconscious mind are colluding together to think of a plan, a strategy to resurrect, to revitalize whatever this thing that's become a ghost town in your life is that could now be resurrected. And I want you to think what a pity it would be, what a shame it would be to not be able to bring back this thing in your life and have a new golden age, a new time in your life where you are the very best at that one thing. And maybe you tried it for a while and you gave up. Maybe you have all the skills, the qualifications. Maybe you have the talent. And maybe there were very good reasons that you neglected or left that particular project or goal or dream or hobby or passion. But now, what if you were to revisit with this mastermind of all these different resourceful states in your deep unconscious, thinking of ways to ask yourself the question, knowing what I now know, how would I approach this same dream, this same hobby, this same passion differently? How could I finally make it work now? And you may notice that when you approach it with a new perspective, that the patience of time in between has enabled you to look at the same thing from a different point of view. Now, what was tricky before is now easy. What had a low energy before now seems exciting and compelling. And at some point, we'll all die. Wouldn't it be a shame? Wouldn't it be a shame to not revisit some of the most important things in your life that once upon a time were important to you and have since become a ghost town? And when you look back on your life, you could have a feeling of pride or a feeling of pity. And what it comes down to is what you're willing to prioritize. Take that mastermind of resources together and assign to unlock the patience to enable you to have that determination but not expect immediate results. If someone didn't have the patience so that when they plant a seed, they allow it to actually take root and grow big enough before it bears fruit, they would long since leave that tree, and at the point where it has got the ability to bear fruit, they're not there to pick it. And what if? What if when you've left this thing that used to be important to you, what if you didn't neglect it? What if you were giving it time to mature, to develop? Just like that planted tree, it needed patience for it to grow. The ignorance of your past is not the ignorance of your present. You have the ability to take your current level of awareness to the same situation, and in doing so, unlock the mastermind of possibilities to restore this part of your life to its former glory. And then imagine that that's exactly what happens. Imagine what it would be like for this one area of your life to go from a ghost town to a thriving town, a popular town, a town where people want to be, want to belong, want to feel the energy of that place. And then imagine that that saloon that you're in is no longer a dusty, neglected ghost town saloon, but a thriving saloon, going back to echoes of its past, where it was the most important place in this town. That's what this area of your life can be again if you allow yourself to consider the possibility. You may find yourself in the next few days and weeks making progress in this area, revisiting this area. You may just roll the dice and see what happens. You may make a call, send an email. You may dust off some old things that you haven't looked at for a while and see them with new eyes. You may be pleasantly surprised just how easy it is to revisit this thing that you've left on the side. And in doing so, you may find that this is actually the start of a new chapter, an exciting chapter that gives you a new lease of life and possibility. And then you realize all of this, the dusty old ghost town, this western town, this saloon, this city on Route 66, it's all just your imagination playing games, exploring possibilities, perhaps turning ignorance into inspiration, unlocking a mastermind within your mind to give you exactly the strategies needed to take your life in the direction that you want to take it now. But you're not in this place. You're in your own body, listening to my voice firmly in the present. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Wiggle those fingers, wiggle those toes. Get a sense that you're in your own physical body right now. And very soon, I will count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. You will awaken feeling resourceful, motivated, and willing to resurrect that area of your life that has become a ghost town and to restore it to its former glory. Starting to count to awaken you. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.
Thank you for listening to The Hypnotist with Adam Cox, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. To automatically receive the latest episodes, please subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, please share this episode with just one friend you think it could help. And if this episode helped you, please leave us a 5-star review.
Okay, just stopping the recording there for the podcast and now jumping back just to offer a bit of reflections here for those watching on YouTube. Just want to have a little bit of different content for YouTube compared to the podcast. As I was going through that, I think the analogy of we all have these ghost towns in our life, things that at one point in time were thriving and really important, and then we've kind of neglected them, we've kind of left them to kind of rot and kind of not be at the forefront of our mind. And for me at one point, hypnosis was that thing. I remember when I was studying psychology as a teenager, 19, 20, 21, I was really excited about hypnosis. I was learning so much about clinical hypnotherapy, about Milton H. Erickson, about language patterns, about sort of the NLP approach with Bandler and Grinder, all this stuff. And I was so exciting. And at that point, I felt like I was building this shiny new town. And then when I entered the world of public relations and I set up my own agency, this became neglected. Hypnosis was the ghost town of my life for a number of years. Until I reached the age of about 35, I think it was about, and I decided that I wanted to pursue this area again. And I attempted to work with a few clients when I was in my early 20s, but I was a different person then than I was in my mid-30s. So when I studied clinical hypnotherapy, what I was really doing, metaphorically speaking, was taking this dusty ghost town and making it bigger than it had ever been, making it thrive. And this podcast is kind of an example that the whole thing got way bigger than I ever expected it to be, because I was willing to revisit a goal that I had effectively neglected, a goal that I had given up on. But in revisiting it, I took a different version of me to that experience. So hopefully if you heard that hypnosis session, I'm hoping there was an area of your life that perhaps the ghost town represented, and it unlocked a desire at some level to revisit that ghost town and give it the attention that it needs. If you like this episode, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Please give some comments because I always appreciate the feedback. And I look forward to seeing you on a future episode very soon. Take care.